Welcome back, everybody. Jimmy here, and I'm joined by instructor Pete. And we're going to be talking today about something we talk about and do a whole heck of a lot around here at Vortex Edge, which is training. Training, practicing, and more specifically, this time, with a handgun. So that's why we have Pete. Pete shoots a lot of handgun around here. He shoots all kinds of things, but I would say he definitely takes a liking to the handgun side of things. Now, the whole idea here, Pete, we want to talk about is, giving people out there some good drills to do when they're at the range, something that's more purposeful, something that doesn't get old, like when you're, I don't know. I think a lot of folks just kind of go, and maybe it's just kind of maybe it's a way to relax, maybe it's a release after a long week or something like that, but you just kind of wind up lobbing rounds downrange without really any purpose or point to it. Maybe less so even now that ammo's been kind of up and down in price and stuff like that. So Pete's got a couple of drills here. We call them drills that really don't get old. There's always a purpose for them. If you're a newer shooter, they can be great for you. And as you advance in your skill, they can still be great to always go back and revisit. So Pete, what are some of these drills? We'll go through them one by one, I'm sure. But what do you think it is about a good pistol drill that makes it great for all levels of shooters and makes it one that you can always come back to?
Well, I think for starters, the first thing is you can modify it. Okay, as you get better in skill, okay, you can progressively make the drill harder to reach your level of difficulty. It'll always challenge you. The first thing I start off with is I think this is really paramount, is just to be able to shoot a group with a pistol. Mm-hmm. Untimed. Doesn't matter the distance. A good distance to start would be 10 yards. And can you just shoot a really tiny group with no time limit? I think that is a really good stepping stone. It really just – the caveat is you have to move beyond that eventually, okay? Because we shoot the pistols different when we shoot it slow and for accuracy versus speed. But I think with newer shooters, it can give them a lot of confidence if they make the time to just learn how to fire that shot without putting any input into the gun. So I think 10 yards, the target doesn't really matter. I kind of like a B8 for this. Cool thing about that is you can put it at 10 yards, and a B8 has different scoring rings. You can kind of track your progress. So if you just fire a 10-round group, hey, I did a 89 today, and you can kind of track your progress over time. You don't need a B8. You can just use the credit card on a USPSA target, or honestly, you can put a paster up there and just with no time limit, as much time as you want, just practice dropping one round on top of each other.
It is nice to do like you guys do with the scoring on a B8 target, because like you said, when you can compare yourself to how did I do last week, last month, whenever I first started, and try and get better that way and watch yourself improving. And I also like, of course, like you mentioned, of course, all these target examples you've given are paper and not steel. Shooting steel is fun.
It's fun.
It's not exactly...
It needs to be done in the right way, Paper's going to give you a lot more feedback. It's going to be a lot more honest. Sometimes you can put a nice, big, old piece of steel up there at 10 yards, and you're not really being honest with yourself. You can almost be cheating a little bit, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. I would recommend for people, if they really wanted to shoot steel, if they had access to a plate rack, I think that can be pretty challenging. I think that can keep you honest. But if you're going to shoot steel, it needs to be kind of small. It needs to be done in the right environment. So, shooting a group on steel doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Right.
I would definitely do it on paper. Like I said, the type of paper target doesn't really matter, but you should just track your progress. And I think it's interesting. I've been doing this for a little while. Like early on, there wasn't a whole lot of emphasis on accuracy, and then there was emphasis on accuracy, and then it kind of boiled over into like that was the only thing that mattered. And like once you reach a point where you're comfortable, you need to move on. You can bring the target back, but I don't want my training to just be group shooting at 25 yards. Like we need to add another component to that.
Okay.
And then moving on, like the next drill I would recommend. This is a drill that's been around forever. It literally has never gotten old. Is a Bill's drill. A lot of lore to how it was named. It was named after this guy named Bill and that guy named Bill. I really don't know.
I thought there was something with a dollar bill.
Maybe, but the point is, the standard was 7 yards. You draw and fire 6 shots into the A zone of a target. And I think it's a really good test for newer shooters because anybody can just draw and fire 1 round with a little bit of practice. You know, you practice your draw, you can get that 1 round off pretty quickly, okay? But it takes a lot of practice to be able to draw that handgun and nail that grip perfectly so you can fire 6 rounds very aggressively and accurately. Like that starts taking some skill, and that's things that can be practiced in dry fire, and it's kind of a test on the range. I can look, and I don't just look at the overall time of the drill. I'm like, hey, what was my first shot? Okay, I'm at 7 yards. What was my first shot, and then what were those splits? Okay, and where did I screw up? The goal is to eventually be able to do it clean and just do it so that draw is just done subconsciously.
Right.
You know, there's not a whole lot of thought to it. What I like about the bill drill is there's a lot of things you can vary with that. Lately, over the past year, I've backed it up to distance. I'll do a bill drill on a USPSA target at 25 yards. I set kind of a goal time for myself, and I try to hit that. And I think to me that's a little more relevant than just straight group shooting. Now I have a time component. I have to draw, and I have to be able to manage the recoil and kind of balance that speed and accuracy. You know, just be fast enough, just be accurate enough to be successful in that drill. So you can vary the distance. If you're a really tense shooter and you need to learn to relax, you can actually get the drill closer to like 3 and 5 yards, so you can set a part time, try to hit that, and really work on relaxation. Other variations you can do it strong hand only.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. You know, everybody, even people that do practice strong and weak hand only, they tend to just kind of do group shooting there. They don't really learn how to run the gun aggressively with just one hand. So you can do a bill drill strong hand only. You can do a bill drill weak hand. There's a lot of different variations. Do it at 7 yards, do it at 15 yards, do it at 25 yards. You know, if you're a police officer and you need a weapon mounted light, and you have access, you can do it in the dark. You can draw your gun, activate your weapon mounted light, fire 6 shots.
Or even a handheld light.
Or a handheld light, exactly. That is, you know, if you take concealed carry dynamics class with us, we kind of show that, hey, it's really handy to have that's handheld light, and to be able to draw that handgun and fire 6 rounds accurately and effectively, that is a really nice skill to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you brought up grip, and I feel like any of these drills or any drills I've ever done, including the bill drill a lot, with drawing from a holster, I don't know if it's just, at least I can think back because it wasn't that long ago to when I was more new to the idea of drawing from a holster. And you kind of take that concept, maybe you take it for granted, or people I think underestimate the complexity of it if you are newer to shooting. You know, like there's getting it just right and getting it to the point where it's second nature, it's subconscious to get your hand in the right spot, to bring the pistol up to your eye, to bring in that support or that grip hand. Doing all of that the same way every time is shockingly, like there's so much to developing that.
Exactly. And that's why and I hate to give like a standard time for anything, because like once people get that, they just stop. But like the kind of universal standard for a bill drill is like 2 seconds. Can I draw the gun? Can I get 6 A-zone hits in 2 seconds? And when you shoot that aggressively, like everything has to be perfect with your grip. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have time to fumble around and find your grip. Like you have to learn how to do everything in the most efficient manner possible. And, you know, newer shooters might start off with, you know, maybe it's 3 seconds, you know, maybe it's 3.5 seconds, but eventually you need to whittle that time down so you learn how to do that aggressively, and being able to do it on demand. Because, yeah, it's something worth practicing. Now, a bill drill in itself won't make you better at those things. A bill drill is a really nice test of all those things. Right. Recoil management, grip, okay, am I looking at the right spot on the target? So you do have to practice other things. You do have to, you know, nailing that grip from the draw and dry fire. You have to practice those other things. Like you can't just do, I mean, I suppose you could, if you had time and money, you could just do bill drill after bill drill after bill drill, but that's not the most efficient way to train it. That bill drill, that's kind of your test to see where you're at.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Pete, like what does recoil management mean to you? Because like grip is so important. You hear a lot of people talk about grip, and oftentimes like people get real caught up in, they get caught up in the idea of recoil management. They're like, okay, the gun's going to go off. It's going to move a lot, and I got to like fight the gun. And then they wind up pushing into the gun early because they're anticipating it so much. Like, what does recoil management mean to you?
What it means to me, and this really helped me, I need to just point the gun where I want it to go, and then I fire the gun and I let the gun recoil. I let the gun do its thing. I think of it as just a machine, like a sewing machine or some industrial machine, like, hey, put bullets here. Okay, do this, and you're holding on to it. It's firm, but it has to be consistent. And any little input you put into the gun wants to go straight back to the A zone. It wants to do that automatically. We are typically the people that screw that up.
Sure.
Okay. And I basically learned, grip the gun firm, grip the gun hard, move this without any other input, and just let the gun track right back to the center of the A zone.
Okay.
That's what it kind of means to me.
Yeah. I wanted to clarify that because I think a lot of times people hear recoil management and it kind of almost in their head immediately turns into like recoil fighting.
Yes.
Like I need to stop recoil from happening.
Don't try to fight recoil. It's going to win every time.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to win every time. All right. The gun has to recoil. You can't stop that. It's a mechanical thing. Okay. There's ways to mitigate recoil. It's how we grip the gun. Mm-hmm. Okay. Generally it's, higher on the gun, maybe a little firmer. All right. But there's no stopping it. It has to happen. And like I said, that bill drill is a really good test. And you can even take that drill farther. You can do that on the move. You can maybe start at 7 yards draw and shoot on the move forward and shoot on the move backwards. Like it's really kind of limitless what you can do with that drill. It's something I've done a lot over the years, and backing up the distance, make it more challenging. Emphasis is on different things. At distance, you're like, yeah, maybe I need a little bit better sight picture, a little more sight confirmation. At distance, we're up close. Hey, I got to relax and just run the gun hard. So,
makes sense.
Bill drill, really good drill.
I like it. And for those of you listening too, I didn't mention this. I should have said it right away at the beginning. Pete is going to do some of these drills. We're going to have it on video. We'll post it either on Instagram or maybe also on YouTube, maybe both. And so you should be able to go see those. We'll try and link it when we post this thing. But anyway, Pete, how about that third drill? I think you had the magic number of 3, right?
3, yes. This is one I always come back to. Once again, it's been around forever. It's called El Presidente. Really down and dirty. You need 3 targets for this one. There's a lot of different variations. The one I always learned was 10 yards on 3 IPSC targets. They're spaced about 1.5 yards apart. Okay. And you start facing uprange. Okay. People call it wrists above shoulders. You turn, you put 2 rounds on each target, do a magazine change, and put 2 rounds on each target.
Got it.
This was one that was attributed to the late Jeff Cooper back in the day. I think he was training somewhere down south, Hispanic in nature. They just called it El Presidente, and it stuck. It's just been a drill that's been around. Once again, it's a test of different things. The first one, you start with an uprange start. And when I first got into shooting, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I did this more and more, it's a lot more challenging to be looking away at the targets than staring right at them and drawing. If you're still new, you can have a variation where you're facing downrange towards the targets, but I want people to learn how to be able to turn, look specifically on one spot on the target, and then start shooting. It adds a level of complexity that I think is really important. We don't teach tactical shooting, we just teach shooting, but if I was a police officer or a SWAT guy, there's nothing more tactical than me than turning, looking, and then seeing a threat and then being able to draw and move my whole body versus just looking down at a target. Like I think that's a skill that is really important to have. Yeah,
just having to quickly download the sight picture into your brain and then make your body react to that is very, it takes a lot.
It's just to turn the head quickly and then to be able to still look at a very specific point on the target is that's definitely a skill worth developing. So, we got that. Okay, you get turned. Okay, now we're firing our first 2 shots, but then now we got target transitions. Okay, and we got to learn how to, for most shooters, this is a big area they can improve on because most people want to shoot fast, but then they don't really learn how to move the gun fast. Okay, so we got some target transitions in there. Now we have to add in a reload. Okay, so that brings up a couple different variations. The way I always do it, fully loaded magazine, I just do an in-battery reload. If you want to practice out of battery reloads, you just load 6 rounds into your magazines. Mm-hmm. So now you're doing like a slide lock reload. But that skill in itself, I've shot, okay, now I got to do my reload. I got to break my grip to do my reload. Now I have to reassess my grip, reacquire my grip, and then fire 6 more shots, okay? And so this is a great one to break down on a shot timer. I like scoring it with hit factor scoring. If you've trained with us before or if you've ever shot competition before, real simple. Hit factor scoring is you got your points, you divide it by your time, you're left with a number that's basically your hit factor. It's basically points per second. So every A zone is scored with 5 points. If you're shooting minor, it's 5 points for the A zone, 3 points for the C zone, and 1 point for D. Misses are down 10. So you take that, and then you look at your hit factor. And when you're looking at the shot timer on a drill like this, once again, arbitrary number, 7 seconds, if you can do it in 7 seconds, right? Things I want to look for, hey, what was my first shot in? Yeah. Okay. What were my transitions? Did I have 1-9 splits on target, but I had 8-9 transitions between targets? That tells me there's a lot of time in there I can pick up. What was my reload? Okay, we can all sit there on the range and just practice one, reload one. We can shoot around, reload. Oh, yeah, I got a really good time. Okay, let's try to do it when it really matters, when there's a lot of other things going on. Yeah. I check that time, and then finally I would check the overall time. So there's a lot of data you can break down just in a simple 12-round drill.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like any kind of drill that has multiple shots being fired in quick succession is definitely going to be a really good training tool for, if you can do that well, you can shoot 1 round really well. Right. Whereas a lot of people, maybe when they're only doing those drills where you're just shooting 1 round, it doesn't necessarily mean the other way around. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be good when you are shooting multiple rounds in quick succession.
Right. And we're kind of stacking skills.
Yeah.
We're shooting multiple shots on multiple targets. We're adding a reload in there. I can see why this drill's been popular over the years, and good variations on it. Once again, we can challenge ourselves. We can back the distance up. Now you're doing it at 25 yards. If you have the space, you can widen the targets out. Now you're doing wide transitions. So you have to literally turn your eyes. You have to move your head a little bit to do the transitions. Starting out, you can start facing downrange. There's a lot of different variation, but I think there's a lot of value to this drill.
Yeah. And even just the turn that you make. I've run this drill with you guys a couple of times, but just the turn you make is a body movement. And so often people, it doesn't require you to be running all over range. It doesn't require you to be running and gunning in and out of barricades and things like that, even though that is fun. But it's just a little movement of your body, and that can throw off so much. Maybe it's even more of just a mental thing for people that I'm moving with a gun now. But we oftentimes see it in our pistol classes when people come through. They're doing okay, they're standing, they're shooting, they're getting things down, and then we throw movement in. And, this isn't a turning while shooting, all John Wayne style or something. This is turn, then shoot. So it's a move, then shoot. And that can really throw people off.
It can. So, once again, you're not going to learn a whole lot from this, but is it a test? It's a validation. Every skill on that you can practice in dry fire. Mm-hmm. You can practice that. You can practice that turning draw. You can't really practice recoil management in dry fire, but you can practice that reload. This is a drill I will actually do in dry fire, the whole thing. Yeah. And you practice that, you practice that, you practice that. You go to the range, and then you test it live and see if you're doing the right practice. If you're seeing, and you should be seeing those results. Yep. When you go live.
I like these kind of things because I just feel like it's I think it's more fun. I think it's a better use of ammo than to just go and kind of load up. I don't know. I got 5 magazines. I loaded them all full. I'm just going to stand here and basically when they're all empty, I'll go home. That's just kind of, again, if that's your thing, if you do that every once in a while, great, because you're shooting and we're all free Americans, so we can. But if you're really trying to learn some things about yourself, where you're at, judge, kind of how you're improving and stuff like that, really get more out of it. That bill drill was, what was it, 7 rounds?
6 rounds.
6 rounds.
6 rounds.
The El Presidente was 12 rounds.
12 rounds.
That's just, you're getting so much out of relatively few rounds.
It's a lot. And if you really learn how to do it right, you're doing most of the work without actually shooting.
Right, when you're doing the dry fire stuff, is that what you're referring to?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Dry fire. So that's where you can really actually save ammo. And then you go to the range and then you practice this. And then all these can be scored, or like the bill drill, you can track, hey, this month I shot it like this. You go home, you work, you come back. Oh, wow, hey, I picked up some time there. Or, same thing with El Presidente. I set these standards for myself. That's the big thing. Like, I don't like telling people what time they should be at.
Right.
But people need to know where they're at so they can get better. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'll ask a guy, hey, man, how fast can you hit a zone target at 7 yards? To me, that's a fairly consistent standard. And they'll be like, I don't know, like half second or like 4 seconds. Like, they have no idea. Mm-hmm. So how you're supposed to get better? Like, just know where you're at and then work on improving yourself. Somebody else will tell you, hey, you need to do a 2-second bill drill, but that may not be helpful for where you're at for a skill level. That might be a goal someday, and then maybe you nail it. Like, keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Like, that's why I hate you need to do this drill in this amount of time, because it never stops, and that's what makes these drills so great. Is I've been doing this a while, and I'm still trying to get better at them.
Right.
And I still shoot them.
Right. What do you real quick? Just curious. What kind of advice do you give to somebody who reaches a point where they feel they've kind of plateaued, or they're plateauing a little bit, right? Like every time I went back to the range, I'm dry firing a lot, and I'm coming back to the range, and when I run these drills, I'm seeing those times shave off. I'm really feeling good, and then now I've gone to the range 3, 4, 5 times, and it's kind of been the same every time. Like, what do you tell somebody who's in that situation?
Let's see. You could always seek outside training. You could go to a class. We know a place that offers classes. Okay. Have somebody else look at somebody
yeah.
and maybe, and this is the thing about shooting, like, you're always going to know somebody that's better at it than you. Maybe get some outside eyes. We might think we're doing something. In reality, we're not. Like, that little picture in your head of yourself doing it versus reality, your perception versus reality could be 2 different things. So it's always helpful. Maybe go to a class, get somebody else to look at you. Sound like a broken record, but man, get out and shoot competition. Range is fun. Just going to the range and shooting is a lot of fun, but go test yourself in competition. 'Cause if you feel like you're not being challenged in your practice, you definitely will be challenged when you go shoot a competition. You'll meet new people. They're great. You'll get a lot of insight into yourself. And to me, it always motivated me to get back and work harder, because I never really felt 100% good after I shot a competition. It was always a new challenge to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love it. So there you have it, folks. 3 drills that never get old with a pistol in particular. Maybe you want to hear some other drills we talk about carbine, long range, and all that stuff. We might have to get some other folks on and talk about those sort of things. And like we said, stay tuned as well. You might see a link here with this podcast, or check out our Instagram page at Vortex Edge, because we're also going to be videoing Pete go through some of these drills. Maybe you can show some of the variations as well. But otherwise, thanks for watching and listening as well. We hope to see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Bye. That's a wrap, everybody. Hope you liked this topic. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and of course, subscribe right here, because there's going to be plenty more to come. If there's topics you'd like to hear us go over on the Vortex Edge podcast in the future, you can let us know by commenting below or hitting us up on Instagram, which is at Vortex Edge. We'd love to hear your suggestions so we can be bringing you the kind of episodes and topics that you want to hear. Otherwise, we'll be seeing you on a future episode. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Bye.